Hello, everyone. Um, Today I'm making this video to answer a question that came to me on Facebook about the meaning of this statement that I always say, let your actions precede your motivations. Always let your actions precede your motivation. If you want to improve faster, if you want to change faster. Um, we all have our dreams, our desires, our temptation to do things, our desire to get better. But we find a lot of resistance inside us. Where does that resistance come from? We don't want to do, or we cannot do the things we would like to do. How do you overcome that, and where is that coming from? That's the topic of today's video. um, your biggest two enemies that work against you in any intention or desire to do anything are your genetic makeup and your unconscious or subconscious mind. These are really your two enemies. So you're the two enemies against you that work against you in your struggle to get better are actually inside you, not outside you. It's not your family, it's not your neighbors, it's not your boss, it's not your environment, even, although we know very well that these things influence us. But your biggest enemy is inside you, and which are your genes. And what did these genes do to your brain and the connections and the circuitry in your brain? And number two is what was stored in your mind since you were a child, especially the first 3 years of life. So you find yourself, you have a conscious mind, you have awareness of what's going on around you and what you want to do, and you have this dialogue. And then when it comes to you going to do what you want to do, you will find the resistance. So where is that coming from? The fear, the procrastination, the laziness, the perfectionism. I want to do it right. And that's all. Even perfectionism is a form of resistance that prevents you from doing things the way you want it to go fast. Perfectionism delays you, and perfectionism is always a defense against fear of failure. So you always want to do everything perfect because you don't want to fail. If you want to change, and if you want to change faster, you have to always put your actions ahead of you, ahead of your motivations. So your genes, your brain biology, your unconscious, subconscious mind that you have no awareness of, these things control you from a distance, from deep, deep, deep inside your body and inside your brain. And if you wanna, and they always resist your temptation to change because they love the status quo. Not only that, they actually pull you to your past. They tend to make you do the things you used to do. So you become a slave of the habit. So these enemies from within you will pull you back to what they used to learn long time ago. So at age 50, you will be doing exactly the very same things that your father was doing or your mother was doing. And you ask yourself, oh my God, I always did not want to be like my father. But you find yourself exactly like your father, or you find yourself exactly like your mother, or you find yourself repeating the same experiences you had before. And you ask yourself, but I don't want to do that. I did never want it to be like that, but I ended up like this because of these forces inside you. The tendency to have this, what we call repetition compulsion, which can be in the form of a habit that you learned when you were young and you keep repeating. What's the fastest way to overcome that is to let your action precede your motivation, is to do things. I am afraid to do it. No, you will do it while you are afraid. But I can do it. I cannot do it. I'm afraid that I will not be able to do it. Just do it. Even if you do a sloppy job, it's fine. Just do it. Do something. It's the power of action, acting on something. And when you decide to do that, you do it right now. You don't say, I'm gonna do it. I always laugh when people talk about New Year resolution. That's a laughable matter. There is a study about how many people follow on their New Year resolution to change whatever behavior they have. If you want to change, if you decided to change a behavior, you have to do some action right now. Right now, while you're watching this video. That's the best way to change. If you're serious about change, if you're not talking the talk or thinking the think, no, you're going to do the action. People talk the talk, but they are not able to walk the walk. So people have a lot of thoughts, a lot of dreams, a lot of ideas, and somebody will come and do something very small, and the next day you will do another thing that's very small, and you accumulate these actions over time, you end up with the dream that you were dreaming of. So you don't just implement your dream in front of you on earth. No, it's a small step. Is you keep moving, is you keep doing something, is you keep learning. So it's all about action, action, action. So what's the best way to overcome the fear to do the things that you're afraid of? Do it while you are afraid, but I cannot do it. If you're afraid to ride the bus, the only solution for this is to ride the bus a lot. If you're afraid to be around people, your subconscious mind, your genes, your protective mechanisms will tell you stay at home. And if anybody tell you that the treatment of social anxiety is to stay at home, that your genes tell you that. Your limbic system tells you that. There's a danger outside. The real solution, the fastest solution for that is to leave home and go sit in public while you are afraid, while you are shy, and continue to do it. If you continue to do it repeatedly, your motivations will follow your actions. So your actions should be always ahead of your motivation, ahead of your emotions, ahead of your desire. You go and do the things first. It's doing, it's acting, not waiting for the desire, not waiting for the motivation to do the things I want to do. If you want to lose weight by diet and exercise, you go now and you go walk for a mile and come back, half a mile and come back, a quarter mile and come back. And you do it again at the end of the day, and you do it again tomorrow. But I am tired. Believe me, if you do it 10 days in a row, you will not be tired anymore. And if you do a quarter mile and you're tired, next time you're going to be tired after half a mile. Next time you will be tired after 1 mile. And next time you will be tired after 5 miles. And at that moment, you will be only tired after 5 miles because the brain will adapt. It's an adaptation. The theory of the brain function now that we're sure of how the brain function is that what we call neuroplasticity. Your brain is capable of learning, but you have to give it the chance to learn. How do you learn? You practice, practice, practice. Like basketball people practice, practice, practice. If you're afraid of something, you practice, 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 and you do it, you do it, you do it. You see these NBA players before the game shooting balls, shooting balls, shooting balls, shooting balls, shooting balls. They need to keep that skill before the game. These people are the best players in the world. If you stop shooting, they will lose their accuracy. They will lose their skill. You have to continue to do it. Most of us do not succeed in overcoming bad habits because we give up too early, because our motivations are ahead of our actions, because you wait till you're motivated to change the behavior. You're waiting for the motivation to go and search for the job. I don't feel like it. If you have these sentences in your vocabulary, you have to erase it from your vocabulary. I don't feel like doing it. You have to get rid of that. I'm afraid I'm gonna mess up. No, mess up. Try to mess up. Do it while you're messing up, and then do it again. The mess will be less, the mess will be less. I am a perfectionist. I have to get it right. You have to get rid, you have completely erased this way of thinking, which is all, it pulls you back, it paralyzes you, and will tell you because you're never gonna get it right. So you take a long time to do anything because I wanna get it right. Just get it. Just get it done halfway and know what you did right and what you did wrong and correct it the next time. Always let your action precede your motivation. Always let your action precede your emotions. Always let your action precede your thoughts. Your action will be ahead of everything. Even your rational mind, even your rationalization. You always do something. Your behavior, your action, what you do should be ahead of everything. Should be ahead of everything else. And when your unconscious mind and subconscious mind pull you back with all what's stored inside us, and what's stored inside us in our limbic system, in our amygdala, in our hippocampus, that middle brain that we have. You remember, we have three brains. We have the higher cortical brain, and then you have that middle mammalian brain that's full of emotions and unconscious mind, and the basal ganglia that govern your actions and movements, and your amygdala, the fight and flight and freeze response, the basic emotions in that middle brain. And then you have the brain stem, and which is the survival brain. So you have the snake brain, you have the mammalian brain, and you have the human higher cortical brain. And there's a fight between the three. There's a fight between these threes and the connections between them. And the information goes up and down. And there's a high influence from the lower brains on the higher brain. Because the lower brains you're born with, and they are stored with a lot of memories and experiences that was built in them since you were a child. And when you were a child, you had an immature brain. So whatever is stored in there is just wired. Your brain, your middle brain is wired certain way based on the experiences that happened to you as a child. So if there was a tendency for your parents to always suppress you and tell you you're not gonna succeed and focus on your negative, or compare you with somebody else and tell you your brother is better than you, or you always fail, or you have this sense of shame and sense of guilt about your failures, these things don't go away. It stays with you. The parents' influence on our brains is very powerful. If you have traumatic experiences as a child, very powerful and long lasting. And how to overcome that, be aware of that. And the best way to suppress these fears and restrictions in your actions that happen to you, and procrastinations and laziness, and I don't feel like it, is to go and consciously do something. Do anything. Do anything. Don't sit there doing nothing, waiting for your brain to tell you, now I'm ready to go, because you will never ready. So you go do the things, and do small things, one day at a time. Just very small thing. And I gave you an example of the exercise, the walking, just very small things, one day at a time. You continue to do it. What will happen if you continue to do that? Your conscious brain, your higher brain, will be able to suppress and change and modificate. There's a process of modification that happen in that neuroplasticity, and your lower brains will adapt to what you're doing. So the process of making it a habit, what you need to do is to make it a habit to do something, and you keep doing it. The majority of us, we don't keep doing it. We do it for the first day, it doesn't feel comfortable, you stop doing it. So you do it and you keep doing it every day, even if you don't have that desire to continue to do it. Because you will never have the ongoing desire to do the things that you want to improve, because your brain is lazy by its nature. The amount of energy needed for the higher brain, the neocortex, the prefrontal cortex to work is much higher than the lower brains. It requires high levels of energy, and the brain likes to conserve energy. Your brain doesn't like to use this energy, so it tends to do the things that it's familiar with, tends to go back, regression to the means. You get used to what you do what you're used to do all your life. So the people who advance, the people who improve their lives, they are the ones who realize that and don't fall into the trap of their unconscious mind, which is full of negative thoughts. You know, our genes have, in our brain, our genes built in a circuitry of negative thoughts to protect us. So fear is protective, because our ancestors, when they are afraid, you're not eaten by a lion. Risk takers are eaten by a lion. So you are fighting your own brain circuitry that tends to be lazy by its nature. You have to realize that your inner brain is working against your conscious desire to change. It wants you to eat more because it's afraid you want to keep that energy inside. Because I told you that there is something called genetic mismatch, because your genes are wired and programmed not for the 2021 version of the human beings. Genetic mismatch means the genes are programmed not for the version of the humans in 2021, when we have Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and refrigerators and microwaves and fast food. No, it's programmed to a million years ago, when your ancestors were looking for the hunter-gatherer, looking for any food, and they're afraid to die from hunger. So your genes are still want you to overeat. They still want you to stay lazy and don't waste the energy. If you start to overexert yourself, your brain goes, your body goes to the starvation mode and opposes you. Same thing. If you start to become successful, your brain will tell you, no, slow down, this is too much. You're using a lot of energy. So the people who are very successful, who are motivated to do things, they are the ones who let your actions precede your motivation. So your motivation will follow your actions. So your actions will be ahead of you. And then your motivation will follow. That means later on you will like the action that you hated a year ago. You will be motivated to do the things that you hated the most and you did not want to do and you found resistance to do. It's all about learning, and practice. Why a lot of people fail? Because they don't continue. It's not a one-day practice, it's an all lifelong practice. It's a lifelong practice. So you will be a student and a learner throughout the rest of your life. Continue to learn. And the people who are successful, they find pleasure and happiness and satisfaction in this type of challenge, challenging yourself. So, success, challenging yourself, doing things against what your genes tell you to do, makes people happy. And that's exactly what growth is. And that's exactly what growth mindset is. Your mentality is a mentality of ongoing learning. What you need to achieve that, you need a lot of humility, a lot of acceptance of your weakness, a lot of acceptance of who you are. And you start to build your self-confidence, you start to build your self-esteem every time you take a step to do something to change yourself to the better. You let your action precede your motivation. Your actions are ahead of you. And you have to know that your motivation is actually working against you. Because your motivations, your desires, your emotions are there to protect you from dying. So they don't want you to be in public. They don't want you, your genes they don't care about that. Your genetic makeup does not want you to be successful. They just want the DNA to survive. So if you go to do something that's dangerous, risk-taking, you want to open a business, you want to do something, you want to go to school when you're 40 years old, you want to start a new job, you're going to start a new relationship, your genes and your subconscious mind will tell you don't do it, will be against you. So how do you fight them? You let your action precede your motivation. You go do it. And you know when you do it's not going to be perfect. And the goal is not perfection. The goal is just to do it with the best of your ability. And if you do it to the best of your ability, be proud with yourself and give yourself thumbs up and say, I did it. That quarter-mile walking, say, I did it. Tomorrow it's going to be 0.26 mile. Then it's going to be 0.27 mile, then half a mile, then 3/4 of a mile, then a mile. And you do it, and you keep doing it. And if you're tired at a mile, keep doing mile for a while, and then go to 1.1 mile. That's how it is. And if you do it in the beginning, it's going to be difficult. What will happen after that? The process of adaptation and neuroplasticity. Your genes and subconscious mind will leave you alone. They will talk to themselves and tell them we have to leave this guy alone. We can't control him anymore. Now your higher brain will be in better control of your lower brains. So the goal, when you do a lot of things, the brain connects, that circuitry in your brain between the neocortex, between the higher cortex, and the lower brain structures, they will give up on you. They will tell you, no, we can't control this guy anymore. You control them. Are you going to be able to erase completely your subconscious fears and your subconscious insecurities? No, you're not. But you will have some control over it. And when you have them, you will be aware of them, and you realize this is a part of the human nature. Life is unfair, and life is unpredictable. You have to know that. Life is unfair and unpredictable. So you work on yourself, you let your action, you precede your motivation, and you stop finding excuses. Stop finding excuses. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Stop projecting your problems on other people. Stop saying it's not just me, it's everybody else. Stop saying it's not my fault. Stop saying it's all my fault. Just go do something about it. Stop saying too much. Stop analyzing too much. Don't analyze too much. Just go and do it. Yes, you made mistakes. Yes, you're guilty about it. Yes, life is terrible. Yes, people are bad. Yes, people are against you. Yes, just go and do some. Just go and do something. Go and do anything. And don't forget, it's not a one-day thing. You will continue to do it, and you always let your action be ahead of your motivation. Let your frontal, if we translate that into physiological terms, let your prefrontal cortex be in control of your unconscious mind. So all of those, what's in your unconscious mind, believe me, they are not good. They are not good for you. They are not good for you. They are all the stored dirt from the past. So you have your when you win, that means your prefrontal cortex is in control of your brain. Is the orders are coming from the higher brain down to the lower brain and suppressing these negative thoughts. So consciously you do things to suppress your inner fears, your inner insecurities, your inner procrastinations, your inner laziness that want to conserve energy. And you don't want to spend that energy on something that you will die from it. That's how genes perceive it. They want you to stay doing nothing. That's the best. Even if you die earlier, your genes are programmed this way. Genes function is to create more genes. That's it. And stay alive. That's the DNA. It's programmed chemically and programmed this way. And it programs your brain this way. And program your body this way. So the best way to deal with your problems and get better and improve, number one, to be aware of how your brain works. Be aware if you have different levels in your brain that fight with each other, that there is a resistance with this inside all of us. So the difference between highly successful people and less successful people or people who fail is not some people are motivated more than others. No, some people were able to create their own motivation by doing things all the time. It's not just people are motivated. We understand that our genetic makeup might make our personalities different and we have no control over it. So some people are born with high dopamine function than others. They are more motivated risk takers than others. We know that. But we can't do anything about it. You're born with it, that's it. And we see this in the temperament of the kids. But that's not the issue. You're born with whatever genetic makeup you have, whatever that combination of genes you have that created who you are, and you have to deal with it. You deal with your own abilities, genes, motivations, biology, brain, connections, everything. That's who you are. So the best way is to activate that higher cortex, to reprogram that higher cortex. Always keep it in charge. Always activate it. Don't let your motivation control you. Don't let your desires and all of that. Be aware of it. Are you going to control it 100%? No. Are you going to control your genes? No. What you can do is to suppress it day by day to be able to get the best outcome humanly possible as a human being. That's it. And if you do that, you will be the happiest person on earth by that quarter mile of walking or 5 stories of flights of stairs, or going and doing something, or overcoming your fears, or doing this or doing that, or doing the things that you don't like to do. So to understand this, you need an ongoing dialogue inside yourself. And at the end, you have to tell yourself, when you see your inner instincts telling you don't do it, is to tell yourself, I'm going to let my actions precede my motivation. let my actions precede my motivation. I'm going to let my actions precede my desires. I'm going to do it. Go do it. Do it halfway. Do it messy. Do it afraid. Do it while you're miserable. It's fine. Just do it. Just go do it. Do whatever you want to do. Just go and do some. And remember, tomorrow you're still going to do it. And day after tomorrow you will do it. And by doing that, you will let your actions precede and control and be in charge of your motivations. And that's how we improve. And that's how we fight our own weaknesses inside us. I hope this is helpful. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week in another video. You guys take care.